The message came without warning on a cold morning in December. Every screen on Earth went dark at the same moment. Every phone, every television, every computer display flickered and died. Then a face appeared. Humanity learned it was not alone in the universe. Admiral Catherine Cole stood in the United Earth Defense Command, center beneath the mountains of Colorado. She had been reviewing fleet reports when the interruption began. Now she watched the alien face fill the massive display screen, and she felt her blood turn cold. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather stretched over sharp bones. Its eyes were black and empty, showing no warmth or mercy. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute power. Species designation: human. I am Speaker Vorith of the Galactic Council. Your existence has been noted. Your expansion into the Kepler star systems has been observed. You have violated galactic territorial law. Catherine gripped the railing in front of her. Around the room, officers and technicians stood frozen, staring at the screen. You will immediately surrender all vessels beyond your home system, Speaker Voroth continued. You will dismantle your military fleet. You will accept integration protocols and submit to your natural status as a provisional species under Council guardianship. This is not a negotiation. This is notification. General Marcus Webb moved to stand beside Catherine. He was a large man with gray hair and hard eyes, and he had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humanity ever reached the stars. His hands were clenched into fists. The Council Armada will arrive at your system in 30 of your planetary rotations, the alien said. You have this time to prepare your surrender. Resistance is not advised. Younger species have attempted defiance before. None of them exist today. Their worlds are empty. Their names are forgotten. Consider this when you make your choice. The transmission ended. The screens returned to normal, but nothing would ever be normal again. The room exploded with noise. Officers shouted into phones. Technicians ran between stations. Somewhere, an alarm began to wail. But Catherine remained still and quiet, her eyes fixed on the empty screen. They want us to kneel, Marcus said quietly. Yes, Catherine replied. What do we do? Catherine turned to face him. She was 53 years old. She had given her entire life to the defense of Earth. Every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night had been for this purpose. And now the moment had arrived. We do what we have always planned to do, she said. Get me President Harrison on a secure line, and wake up the Black Armada. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. The Black Armada was humanity's deepest secret. Officially, it did not exist. No budget mentioned it. No politician discussed it. The sailors who served aboard its ships had disappeared from public records years ago. Their families believed them dead or missing. You really think we can fight them? Marcus asked. I think we have no choice, Catherine answered. If we surrender, we become slaves. Our children become slaves. Everything we have built, everything we have dreamed, ends forever. I would rather die fighting than live on my knees. She walked to the central command station and began issuing orders. Within minutes, messages were racing through secret channels to hidden bases across the solar system far from Earth. In the freezing darkness around Neptune, something stirred. The great ice giant was wrapped in storms that had raged for millions of years. Deep within those storms, hidden from every sensor and every telescope, a fleet-weighted commander, Daniel Price, stood on the bridge of the stealth carrier, its midnight sun, and watched the activation codes scroll across his screen. He had waited 6 years for this moment. Part of him had hoped it would never come. Another part had always known it would. All stations report ready, his executive officer said. Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos was a small woman with sharp features and sharper eyes. She had served with Daniel since the beginning. The fleet is waking up, Daniel nodded. How many ships? 42 capital ships. 200 support vessels. Every fighter and bomber we have. Outside the viewports, Daniel could see other ships emerging from their hiding places within Neptune's atmosphere. They rose like ghosts from the blue-green clouds, their hulls painted in colors that swallowed light. These were not the sleek white vessels of Earth's public space force. These ships were built for one purpose: war. The public fleet was a show. A collection of old carriers and patrol ships meant to make humanity look peaceful and harmless. The real fleet, the Black Armada, had been built in secret over 50 years. Hidden shipyards carved into asteroids and buried beneath the lunar surface had produced these vessels. The best engineers and scientists on Earth had designed them using every piece of alien technology that traders and smugglers had brought to human space. The Galactic Council thought humanity was primitive. They thought humans were like every other young species they had conquered. They had no idea what waited for them in the dark. Message from Admiral Cole, Maria reported. She wants the fleet in position within 2 weeks. We are to maintain complete radio silence until she gives the signal. Daniel turned to his crew. They were young, most of them, volunteers who had given up normal lives for a secret mission they might never survive. They looked at him with fear and hope and fierce determination. "You all heard the alien message?" he said. "The Council thinks we are weak. They think we will break. They have done this to countless species before us, and they expect us to surrender like all the others." He paused. "They are wrong." Pressed a button on his console, opening a channel to every ship in the Black Armada. "All hands, this is Commander Price. In 30 days, the enemy arrives. They come with hundreds of ships and weapons beyond anything we have faced before. They come to conquer us, to enslave us, to erase everything we are. But we have weapons of our own. We have courage. We have each other. And we have something the Council has never faced before." He looked out at the gathering fleet, at the dark ships rising from Neptune's storms, like nightmares given form. "We have the will to fight, not for glory, not for conquest, but for our homes, our families, our children's future. The Council wants humanity to kneel. We will show them what happens when you threaten a species that refused to die quietly on its own planet." The channel closed. Daniel felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders, heavier than ever before. "Set course for the inner system," he ordered. "Silent running. We have a war to prepare for." The midnight sun turned toward distant Earth, and the Black Armada followed. 300 alien warships were coming to crush humanity. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this. Fight for half a century, the universe was about to learn that humans did not. Kneel. The Black Armada moved through space like shadows crossing a dark room. No running lights marked their passage. No radio signals betrayed their position. They slipped between planets and around moons. Invisible to every sensor the Galactic Council might have watching, Commander Daniel Price stood at the center of the midnight sun's bridge, studying the tactical display that showed the positions of every ship in the fleet. 42 capital ships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. 200 destroyers and cruisers, fast and deadly. Thousands of fighters and bombers waited in launch bays, their pilots running final checks on weapons and systems. "We're receiving updates from Earth Command," Maria Santos reported from her station. "The Council fleet entered long-range sensors 2 hours ago. 312 ships. They're taking their time, probably expecting us to panic." Daniel allowed himself a small smile. "Let them think what they want. What's the status of the public fleet?" "Admiral Cole has them holding position near Mars. 47 ships, all obsolete designs. She's making it look like that's our entire defense." The plan was simple, but dangerous. The public fleet would face the Council Armada openly, appearing weak and hopeless. The aliens would see exactly what they expected to see: a primitive species with primitive ships, ready for conquest. They would not see the Black Armada until it was too late. Daniel walked to the forward viewports and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 300 enemy warships were coming to enslave his species. The thought filled him with cold anger. He had been 24 years old when the recruiters found him. They had appeared at his apartment one night, 2 men in dark suits who knew things about him that nobody should know. They knew about his scores at the Naval Academy. They knew about his natural talent for tactics. They knew about the secret fear that kept him awake at night, the fear that humanity was alone in a hostile universe. "We're not alone," one of the recruiters had said. "And the universe is exactly as hostile as you imagine. We need people like you, Commander. People who understand what's coming. He had said yes without hesitation. That night, Daniel Price died in a training accident, at least according to official records. His family grieved for a son they would never see again. His friends moved on with their lives. And Daniel began his real service, aboard ships that did not exist, preparing for a war that most of humanity did not know was coming. Now that war had arrived, Commander Maria called. Admiral Cole is on Secure Channel 7. Daniel returned to his station and opened the communication link. Catherine's face appeared on his private screen, tired but determined. In Ed, Daniel? I need a status report. The fleet is in position, Admiral. We're holding at coordinates Bravo 7, just outside the asteroid belt. The Council won't spot us until we want them to. Good. Catherine leaned closer to the camera. I've just received updated intelligence from our sources. The Council fleet commander is named Zorith. He's a decorated officer from the Velkar species, one of the founding races of the Council. He's led 17 pacification operations against younger species. 17 victories without a single defeat. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. He's never fought humans. No, he hasn't. And that's our advantage. The Council has no idea what we're capable of. They think their shields will protect them. They think their numbers will overwhelm us. They don't know about the quantum tunneling warheads. The quantum tunneling warheads were humanity's greatest secret. For decades, human scientists had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They had analyzed shield generators, weapon systems, and hull materials. And they had discovered something wonderful. A weakness Council shields were nearly perfect. They could stop any projectile, absorb any energy weapon, deflect any missile. But the shields worked by creating a barrier in normal space. They could not stop weapons that briefly shifted out of normal space and reappeared on the other side. Human engineers had spent 20 years developing warheads that could make that shift. The weapons were expensive and difficult to manufacture. Each one required rare materials that took months to gather, but they worked. In testing, they had punched through Council shield technology like it was not there. How many warheads do we have? Daniel asked. Enough for one battle, Catherine replied. Maybe two, if we're careful. After that, we're out. So we need to make this count. We will, Admiral. Catherine's expression softened slightly. I know I'm asking a lot from you and your crews. Many of you have served in silence for years, away from your families, away from everyone you love. You did this because you believed this day would come. I want you to know that your sacrifice matters. Whatever happens in the next few days, humanity will remember what you did. Daniel thought of his mother, who still cried on the anniversary of his supposed death. He thought of his sister, who had named her son after him. They would never know the truth. They would never know that he had spent the best years of his life preparing to defend them. We're ready, Admiral, he said. Just give us the signal. The Council fleet will reach Mars orbit in 18 hours. That's when they expect us to surrender. That's when we attack instead. Catherine's eyes hardened. When I give the word, do cloak and hit them with everything we have. No warning, no mercy. They came to enslave us. We're going to send them running. The channel closed. Daniel turned to face his crew. You heard the Admiral? 18 hours until contact. I want every system checked and rechecked, every weapon loaded and ready. Every pilot briefed and prepared. He paused, looking at the faces around him. Get some rest if you can. Tomorrow, we fight for the survival of our species. The crew dispersed to their duties. Daniel remained on the bridge, staring at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, the enemy was coming. They thought they were coming to claim an easy victory. They thought humanity would bow and beg and surrender. They were about to learn how wrong they were, Maria. Santos appeared beside him. You should rest too, Commander. You've been awake for 30 hours. I'll rest when this is over if we survive. Daniel looked at her. They had served together for 6 years. She was the closest thing he had to family now. We'll survive. And we'll win. I have to believe that. Maria nodded slowly. I believe it too. I just hope the price isn't too high. Daniel had no answer for that. War always demanded a price, Tomorrow, humanity would learn what that price would be. But whatever it cost, they would pay it. Because the alternative was slavery, and humans had not come this far to spend eternity on their knees. The midnight sun hung silent in the darkness, waiting, and Daniel Price waited with it, counting the hours until the fire began, the council. Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metal locusts. 312 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation at the edge of the solar system, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. They had come to conquer, and they expected no real resistance. Fleet Commander Zoroth stood on the elevated command platform of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a Velkar. His gray skin pulled tight over bones that were harder than human steel. His black eyes surveyed the human system with something close to boredom. This was his 18th pacification operation. The previous 17 had followed the same pattern: arrive with overwhelming force, issue the ultimatum, watch the primitive species scramble and panic, then accept their surrender. Sometimes a few foolish vessels would attempt to fight. They never lasted long. "Scun the system," Zoroth ordered. "Show me their defensive positions." A sensor officer, a small creature from a species that had surrendered to the Council 3,000 years ago, worked its console with quick movements. "Commander, I am detecting the human fleet holding position near their fourth planet. 47 vessels. Analysis indicates obsolete designs. Estimated threat level, minimal." Zoroth made a gesture of dismissal. As expected, these humans are barely 1,000 years removed from their Stone Age. They have no idea what true power looks like. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel. Inform them that their time has expired. They will power down all weapons and prepare for boarding parties." The message went out across the void. For several long moments, nothing happened. Zoroth waited with the patience of a predator who knew his prey could not escape. Then a response came. Audio only, no visual. "Council Fleet, this is Admiral Catherine Cole of the United Earth Defense Force. We have received your message." The human voice was calm and steady, showing no fear. "Our answer is no. Not today, not ever. Humanity does not kneel." A ripple of surprise passed through the bridge crew. Zoroth felt his thin lips curl into something like amusement. So the humans wished to make a show of defiance. How predictable. How futile. "Destroy the nearest human vessel," he ordered. That should clarify their situation. Council destroyer broke formation, its massive engines pushing it toward the human fleet. Weapons charged, targeting systems locked onto a small human patrol ship. The destroyer's captain began the firing sequence. The destroyer exploded. Zoroth lurched forward in his command chair. "What happened?" "Unknown, Commander." The tactical officer's voice trembled with confusion. "We detected no incoming fire. No missiles. No energy weapons. The destroyer simply detonated from within." Before Zoroth could respond, another explosion lit up the formation. A cruiser this time, breaking apart in a ball of orange fire. Then another, and another. Council vessels began dying throughout the Armada, struck by weapons that no one could see. "Where is it coming from?" Zoroth demanded. "Where is the enemy?" "Sensors show nothing, Commander. Empty space in all directions. The human fleet has not moved from their position near the fourth planet." "I do not understand." The answer came as the Black Armada decloaked. They appeared from nowhere, rising from every angle like ghosts given form. Hundreds of vessels painted in colors that swallowed light, their hulls marked with symbols that Zoroth did not recognize. Human ships, but nothing like the primitive craft his intelligence had described. These were warships, sleek and deadly. And they were everywhere. Admiral Cole's voice returned to the communication channel, cold and hard as frozen iron. "You wanted to meet humanity, Commander. Here we are." The battle erupted with a fury that shook the void itself. Human destroyers dove into the Council formation, their weapons firing in rapid bursts. The quantum-tunneling warheads punched through Council shields like they were made of paper. Explosions blossomed across the enemy fleet as vessels that had never known defeat found themselves dying by the dozens. Zoroth shouted orders, trying to rally his fleet. All ships, return fire. Target the human vessels. Concentrate firepower on their largest ships. Council weapons blazed across space, energy beams and plasma torpedoes seeking human targets, but the human ships were fast, faster than anything Zorith had ever seen. They danced between the Council fire. Using their smaller size and greater speed to avoid destruction, on the bridge of the Midnight Sun, Commander Daniel Price watched the battle unfold with fierce satisfaction. Status report. Maria Santos checked her displays. 47 enemy vessels destroyed in the first 2 minutes. We've lost 3 ships. Our fighters are engaging their escort squadrons. Press the attack. I want their command ships targeted. Cut off the head and the body will die. Human bombers swept toward the massive Council flagships, their payloads armed and ready. Fighter squadrons engaged enemy interceptors in swirling dogfights that filled the void with fire and debris. The Black Armada fought with a precision and ferocity that the Council had never encountered. Zorith watched his fleet crumbling and felt something he had not experienced in centuries of warfare: fear. These humans were supposed to be primitives. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, they fought like demons unleashed from some ancient nightmare. Commander. The tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. We have lost 87 vessels. Human casualties remain minimal. Their weapons are penetrating our shields. I repeat, their weapons are penetrating our shields. Impossible. Council shields were impenetrable. Every species in the galaxy knew this, but the evidence was undeniable. Human weapons were tearing through the most advanced defensive technology in the known universe. Another explosion rocked the Eternal Dominion as a human bomber squadron made a devastating attack run. Warning alarms screamed throughout the flagship. Damage reports flooded in from every section. Fleet cohesion is failing, the tactical officer reported. Multiple vessels are attempting individual retreats. Commander, we are being routed. Zorith stared at the chaos on his displays. This could not be happening. He was Fleet Commander Zorith, conqueror of 17 worlds, hero of the Velkar people. He did not lose, but he was losing. And if he did not act quickly, he would not survive. Signal all vessels, he said, his voice heavy with shame. Emergency retreat. Prepare for faster-than-light transit. We are withdrawing. The order spread through the remnants of the Council fleet. Ships that had come to conquer now fled in desperate disarray. Their commanders too shocked and frightened to maintain formation. One by one, they jumped to faster-than-light speed. Disappearing from the solar system, as the last Council vessel fled, a cheer rose across the human fleet. They had done the impossible. They had faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy and sent it running. Admiral Catherine Cole stood on her command deck and allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. The battle was won. But she knew this was only the beginning. The Council would return, and next time they would bring more ships, more weapons, more determination to crush humanity. But that was a problem for another day. Today, humanity had proven something that would echo across the galaxy. They had proven that the Council could be beaten. They had proven that younger species did not have to kneel. They had proven that humans would fight. Lieutenant Hannah Cross had never killed anyone before the Battle of Sol. Now, as her fighters screamed through the chaos of humanity's greatest victory, she had lost count of how many Council ships she had helped destroy. Her interceptor, designated Reaper 7, was a small craft built for speed and violence. It carried 4 quantum tunneling missiles and twin rapid-fire energy cannons. In the past hour, she had fired everything she had and rearmed twice at the Midnight Sun's fighter bays. Reaper 7, this is Control. We have a Council battleship trying to reform the enemy line. Coordinates being transmitted now. Hannah checked her display and saw the target. It was massive, at least 10 times the size of her tiny fighter. And its weapons were still firing at human vessels, despite the chaos around it. Even in retreat, the Council was dangerous. Copy that. Control. Reaper 7 engaging. She pushed her throttle forward and dove toward the battleship. All around her, the battle raged like a storm of fire and metal. Human ships and council ships traded blows across thousands of kilometers. Explosions lit up the darkness with bursts of orange and white. Debris from destroyed vessels tumbled through space, creating deadly obstacle courses for pilots trying to maneuver. Hannah wove through the wreckage of a council cruiser, its shattered hull still glowing from the attack that had killed it. Her targeting computer painted weak points across the battleship's surface, identifying places where the hull met the shield generators. Reaper 7. Fox 3. Her missiles streaked away, leaving trails of blue light as they accelerated toward the target. At the last moment, the quantum tunneling systems activated, shifting the warheads briefly out of normal space. They reappeared inside the battleship's shields and struck the hull with devastating force secondary. Explosions rippled across the alien vessel. Fire burst from multiple sections as power systems failed and ammunition cooked off. The battleship began to list, its engines dying, its weapons falling silent. Splash 1 battleship, Hannah reported, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. Reaper 7 returning to carrier for rearm. She turned her fighter back toward the midnight sun, weaving through the ongoing battle. In the distance, she could see council ships jumping away, their faster-than-light drives flashing as they fled the system. The retreat was accelerating. Humanity was winning. On the command deck of the Midnight Sun, Commander Daniel Price watched the battle unfold with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. His ship had taken damage during the fighting. 3 sections were sealed off due to hull breaches. 17 crew members were dead. But they were still fighting. Admiral Cole on the command channel, Maria Santos, reported. Daniel opened the link. Catherine's face appeared, streaked with sweat and grime from damage to her own flagship. Daniel, status report. We've destroyed over 160 council vessels. Our losses stand at 31 ships across the fleet. The enemy is in full retreat. I estimate less than half their original force will escape the system. Excellent. Catherine allowed herself a tired smile. Your bomber squadrons did incredible work. The attacks on their command ships broke their coordination completely. Daniel thought of the pilots who had died in those attack runs, young men and women who had given everything for this victory. We paid a price, Admiral. A heavy price, I know. And we'll honor them. But first, we need to finish this. Catherine's expression hardened. I want pursuit squadrons following the retreat. Not to engage, but to track their jump signatures. I want to know where they're running to. You're thinking of following them? I'm thinking of sending a message. The Council needs to understand that this wasn't luck. This wasn't a fluke. Humanity chose to fight, and we won. They need to see that we're not afraid of them. Daniel understood. This battle was just the beginning. The Council controlled thousands of star systems. They had resources beyond human imagination. They would return, eventually, with more ships and more determination. Humanity needed to establish its position before that happened. I'll send the pursuit squadrons, he said. What about the rest of the fleet? We regroup, repair what we can, and we start preparing for the next phase. Catherine paused. Daniel, I want you to know that you and your crew performed beyond all expectations. The Black Armada proved its worth today. History will remember what you did. The channel closed. Daniel leaned back in his command chair and looked around the damaged bridge. His crew worked at their stations, some injured, all exhausted, but none of them had given up. They had faced the most powerful military force in the galaxy and refused to break. In the medical bay, Dr. Nathan Ellis worked frantically to save the wounded. He had been a civilian surgeon before the Black Armada recruited him. Drawn by the chance to serve something greater than himself, now his hands were covered in blood, human and alien, as he fought to keep his patients alive. We need more plasma, he ordered his nurses. And get me another surgical kit. This one is contaminated. A young sailor lay on his table, her chest torn open by shrapnel from an exploding console. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Nathan worked with desperate precision, trying to repair damage that should have been fatal. Stay with me, he murmured. We didn't win this war just to lose you. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Engineers crawled through damaged sections, sealing breaches and restoring power. Damage control teams fought fires and rescued trapped crew members. Pilots like Hannah Cross landed their battered fighters and immediately reported 4 new assignments. The Battle of Seoul was over, but its aftermath would continue for hours. When the final count came in, the numbers were staggering. The Council had lost 193 vessels, including 7 of their largest battleships. Tens of thousands of Council personnel had died. Human losses stood at 31 ships and just over 3,000 sailors. It was a victory beyond anything humanity had dared to hope for. But everyone who had fought in that battle understood the truth. This was just the first round. The Council would not accept such a humiliating defeat. They would return. Admiral Catherine Cole addressed the fleet that evening, her voice broadcast to every ship in the Black Armada. Today, we did the impossible. We faced an enemy that had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy. An enemy that expected us to kneel. An enemy that came to enslave us. She paused. They ran. They ran from human courage. They ran from human determination. They ran from the simple truth that we will never surrender. Catherine looked at the stars, at the distant points of light where Council ships had fled. Tomorrow, we begin the next phase of this war. We did not ask for this conflict. We did not seek it out. But now that it has come, we will see it through to the end. The Council wanted to know what humanity was made of. Now they know. We are made of fire, and anyone who threatens our home will burn. The transmission ended. Across the fleet, exhausted crews raised their voices in cheers. They had proven themselves. They had earned their place among the stars, and they were ready for whatever came next. 1 week after the Battle of Seoul, a single human vessel departed the solar system. The destroyer Defiance was small by human standards and tiny compared to Council warships. But it carried something far more powerful than weapons. It carried a message. Captain Samuel Grant stood on his bridge as the faster-than-light drive activated. The stars stretched and blurred, and then the Defiance was somewhere else, somewhere no human ship had ever gone before. The Velkar home system was the heart of the Galactic Council. 3 massive planets orbited a yellow sun, their surfaces covered with cities that had stood for 1,000,000 years. Defense platforms filled the space between worlds, enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. And at the center of it all, orbiting the primary planet, floated the Council Station, a structure the size of a small moon, where representatives of 47 species governed the galaxy the moment the Defiance appeared.
Alarms sounded across the system.
Defense platforms locked their weapons on the tiny human vessel. Within seconds, a fleet of warships surrounded it, their captains shouting demands for surrender. "Human ship, you have entered Sovereign Council space." The voice was harsh and angry. "You will power down all systems immediately. You will prepare to be boarded. Your crew will face judgment for the crimes of your species." Samuel remained calm. He had volunteered for this mission knowing he might not return. Every member of his crew had done the same. They understood what was at stake. "This is Captain Samuel Grant of the United Earth Defense Force. I am here on a diplomatic mission. I carry a message from humanity for the Galactic Council. I request an audience." Silence. Then, surprisingly, the weapons locks disengaged. You will be escorted to the Council Station. Any deviation from the assigned flight path will result in your immediate destruction. "Understood," Samuel replied. "Lead the way." The Defiance followed its escort toward the massive station. As they approached, Samuel could see thousands of ships docked at its ports, vessels from species across the galaxy. Most of them were civilian craft, but enough were warships to destroy Earth 100 times over. He felt no fear. He had seen what humans could do. He trusted that the Council had seen it too. The docking was swift and efficient. Council guards, massive creatures in armored suits, escorted Samuel and his senior officers through corridors that seemed designed to inspire awe and terror. The walls were carved with images of Council victories, species after species kneeling before their conquerors. Samuel noticed that the humans were the first species in those murals who were still standing. The council chamber was vast beyond imagination. A spherical room nearly a kilometer across. Its walls filled with platforms where representatives of 47 civilizations sat in judgment. The air hummed with the sound of translation devices converting the speech of 100 different tongues. At the highest platform sat Speaker Vorath, the same skeletal alien who had delivered the ultimatum to Earth, his black eyes fixed on Samuel with cold hatred. "You have killed thousands of council citizens," Vorath announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You have destroyed vessels representing the combined military might of galactic civilization. You have defied the natural order that has maintained peace for 10,000 years. What possible message could justify such actions?" Samuel walked to the central platform where visiting species were meant to kneel. He did not kneel. He stood straight, his uniform crisp, his expression calm. "The message is simple," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. "We reject your order. We reject your authority. We reject your assumption that younger species exist to serve your purposes." Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. Some sounded angry. Others sounded surprised. A few, from species that had been conquered long ago, sounded almost hopeful. "Humanity did not ask to be discovered," Samuel continued. "We did not invite your ultimatum. We were content to explore the galaxy peacefully, to learn about our neighbors, to grow and develop at our own pace. But when you threatened our world, when you demanded that we surrender our freedom and our future, you left us no choice." Speaker Vorath leaned forward. "You cannot hope to win a prolonged war against the entire council. Your victory at Sol was surprising, but it was a single battle. We have resources that you cannot imagine. We have weapons that your primitive science cannot comprehend. We have time measured in millions of years." "Maybe," Samuel acknowledged. "Maybe you could destroy us if you dedicated everything you have to that purpose. But consider the cost. Your pacification fleet was supposed to crush humanity without resistance. Instead, you lost almost 200 ships and tens of thousands of lives. How many more are you willing to sacrifice?" He turned slowly, looking at the representatives gathered around him. "And how many of them are watching this moment right now? How many species in this chamber were once independent, once proud, once free? How many of them are wondering what would happen if they followed humanity's example?" The murmurs grew louder. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably on their platforms. Samuel could see fear in their eyes, but also something else. Something that looked almost like inspiration. "We are not asking for war," Samuel said, turning back to face Vorath. "We are demanding recognition. Humanity will deal with the Council as equals, or we will not deal with you at all. Those are your options. You can accept us as we are, a free and sovereign species, or you can try to destroy us. But know this, we will fight. Every man, every woman, every child on Earth will fight. And whatever happens, the galaxy will see that resistance is possible. They will see that the Council can be beaten." Speaker Vorath stared at the human for a long moment. The chamber had fallen silent. The weight of history pressed down on everyone present. "You would risk the destruction of your entire species for the sake of pride." Samuel shook his head. "Not pride, freedom. There is a difference. Pride is about how others see us. Freedom is about who we are, and humans would rather die free than live as slaves." He straightened his shoulders and looked directly into the speaker's black eyes. "You ordered us to kneel?" We answered with fire. "That is our message. Learn from it." Samuel Grant turned and walked from the council chamber. No one tried to stop him. His crew followed in silence as they made their way back to the Defiance. 6 months later, the Treaty of Geneva was signed. Humanity was recognized as a sovereign power, the first species in Council history to earn that status through defiance. The Black Armada remained on guard, watching the stars. But the expected second attack never came. Admiral Catherine Cole retired from active duty and spent her remaining years teaching at the Academy, preparing the next generation to defend their world. Commander Daniel Price eventually became an admiral himself, leading the fleet that would one day explore the galaxy as equals rather than subjects, and on Earth. In a memorial garden overlooking the ocean, the names of 3,000 sailors were carved into black stone. They were the ones who had died to prove that humanity would never kneel. Their sacrifice would never be forgotten. The universe had finally learned a simple truth when threatened. Humans did not beg or bargain or surrender. They fought. They burned. And they won. That was humanity's message to the stars. And the stars remembered.